My husband pulls out my chair for his sister while I'm still standing in the foyer. I know it's my chair because my name is printed on the place card, and because the cream donor card beside the plate carries the faint blue smear I made that morning when Daniel bumped my coffee. He hands the card to Vanessa as if it belongs to her. "Keep that out," he tells her. "Philip will come by." At the table, my mother-in-law lifts her champagne. "To my two wonderful children, finally together where you belong." I'm 10 yards away holding the brass token for Daniel's overcoat. Then Philip Bell opens the donor page at the lectern, looks toward my place, and steps down from the stage. Daniel sees him coming. His hand closes around Vanessa's shoulder. That is when I understand this wasn't a seating mistake. 3 hours earlier, Daniel had stood behind me in our bathroom while I fastened one earring and tried not to move my mouth. "You're doing the face," he said. "What face?" "The face you do when you're preparing to have a bad time." I watched him in the mirror. He was fighting with a bow tie he had insisted he could tie without a video. One end hung to his collarbone. The other looked like a black moth pinned beneath his chin. "I'm preparing to wear heels for 5 hours," I said. "That's different." "Is it?" He smiled because he thought I was teasing him. Daniel had a generous smile. It was one of the first things people liked about him and one of the last things they questioned. He could make a contractor forgive a delayed payment with that smile. He could make his mother believe a boundary was merely a scheduling issue. He could make me feel unreasonable while kissing my bare shoulder. He handed me the donor card. "Read it again?" "You already read it." "I like hearing you read it." The card was heavy cream stock, the same kind Aunt June used for handwritten labels at Bellwether House. She believed ballpoint pen made everything look temporary. I had written the dedication in blue fountain ink and waited 20 minutes before sliding it into the program. Daniel had bumped the mug anyway, leaving one small crescent near the lower corner. I read it aloud. "For June Vale, who taught me that the work no one notices is often the work holding everything together." She knew there is a difference between being welcomed into a house and merely being useful inside it. May Bellwether always remember the hands that keep its glass bright. Daniel met my eyes in the mirror. "That's beautiful." "It sounds angry." "It sounds like June." June was angry. June once threw a lemon at a city inspector. He called the West Greenhouse a sunroom. Then he had it coming. I laughed, and Daniel kissed the side of my head. He smelled like shaving soap and the cedar sachets I put in his dresser. That moment stayed with me later, not because it was tender, but because he had heard every word. Now Philip Bell is crossing the ballroom with the program open in his hands. "Mara." A coat check attendant touches my elbow. "Are you all right?" Her name is Tessa. Bellwether hires her for every major event, and every year she pretends not to notice when donors tuck cash into the brass token bowl because they mistake it for a tip jar. "Fine," I say. I'm not sure why I'm still in the foyer. There had been a reason 5 minutes ago. Daniel and I had arrived 20 minutes late because his mother's hired car went to the wrong entrance, and Evelyn refused to walk around the building in evening shoes. I went inside to check us in while Daniel circled back for her. Tessa handed me token 47 for Daniel's coat. I slipped it into my clutch, accepted our table assignment, and found our names side by side at table 6. Then Evelyn swept through the doors with Vanessa behind her. Vanessa wore silver and looked furious about it. Her dress was beautiful but slightly too tight across the ribs, as if it had been chosen for a different version of the evening. "Surprise," Evelyn said. Daniel's face did something quick and private before he smiled. "What are you doing here?" I asked Vanessa. "Apparently attending a gala." "She needed to get out," Evelyn said. "You know how grim she's been." "I'm standing right here, Mom." "Then correct me if you've become delightful." Vanessa rolled her eyes, but she also slipped her arm through Daniel's. She had been back in town for 4 months, ever since her partnership with a hotel designer in Atlanta had ended in lawsuits, vague online statements, and the sudden disappearance of her professional website. Daniel called it a bad breakup. Vanessa called it theft. Evelyn called it a coordinated attack on talent. "What table are you at?" I asked. Evelyn looked toward Daniel. That should have been my answer. "We'll figure it out," he said. The Bellwether Gala was sold out. It had been sold out for 6 weeks. Each place cost more than our first apartment's monthly rent, and the seating chart had been revised so many times that the events manager had threatened to laminate it. "Daniel," I said quietly. "She can have my place," Vanessa said. "I don't care." "You came all this way," Evelyn protested. 28 minutes in traffic. "You put on the dress under duress." Daniel drew me a few steps away, keeping his voice low. "Can you sit with the conservancy staff? They're working. You know all of them. That doesn't make me an employee." "I didn't say it did. You asked me to sit with them because your mother brought Vanessa without a ticket." His jaw tightened. "I'm trying to solve the immediate problem." Daniel liked immediate problems. They let him become useful before anyone could ask who had created them. Evelyn appeared beside us. "Mara, you're here constantly. You've had dinners with these people. Vanessa has been living out of boxes for months." "Mom," Daniel said, "I'm only saying Mara doesn't need a chair to know she matters." It was almost impressive. Evelyn could turn taking something from me into praise for how little I required. Vanessa stood behind her, staring at a display of auction lots. A weekend in Bar Harbor, a private chef's dinner, a set of hand-blown tumblers made in the Bellwether furnace room. She looked embarrassed, but she didn't leave. "I'll talk to Nina," Daniel said. "Give me 2 minutes." I let him go because Nina Cho, Bellwether's facilities director, had once found 3 seats for a state senator's staff with less notice. Because Daniel knew tonight mattered to me. Because my name was on the table and my money had paid for 2 places. Because belief becomes a habit long after it stops being evidence. A museum volunteer intercepted me near the foyer to ask about a roof invoice. It took perhaps 4 minutes. By the time I turned around, Daniel was seating Vanessa in my place. Philip reaches table 6. He is tall, stooped, and silver-haired, with the careful manner of a man who has spent 40 years walking beneath irreplaceable glass. He stops behind Vanessa's chair and smiles at her. "You must be Mara Voss." Vanessa looks at Daniel. Daniel gives her shoulder a small squeeze. Not encouragement, instruction. She begins. Evelyn leans forward. "Vanessa Voss, Mara was delayed. I'm sorry." Philip checks the table card, then the program. "This is seat 6? The cards got shuffled, Daniel says. His tone is relaxed enough to make everyone else sound confused. Mara's speaking with someone in the foyer. Philip follows his glance and sees me. Recognition moves across his face. He has known me since June first brought me to Bellwether on a Tuesday morning and made me polish fingerprints from the Orchid House doors. I was 23 and furious with the world in an unfocused, exhausting way. Philip gave me a rag and never asked why. "There she is," he says. Several heads turn. I want to step behind the floral arrangement. I want to walk into the restroom and stay there until the auctioneer starts selling things no one needs. Instead, I move toward the table. Philip holds out the donor card. I wanted permission to read this during the stewardship remarks, but since we're here, perhaps I'll borrow the room for a moment. Daniel stands. "Philip, we don't want to interrupt dinner." "Oh, I interrupt dinner professionally." A few people smile. Philip adjusts his glasses and reads my name, followed by June's. The room doesn't become silent all at once. It happens in rings. Table 6, then the neighboring tables, then the far side where people notice someone else paying attention. Philip reads the words in my handwriting, including the line about being welcomed into a house and merely being useful inside it. Vanessa's fingers slide off the donor card. When Philip finishes, he looks at the empty place card and then at me, standing behind Daniel's chair. "June would have liked that," he says. "She would have corrected your posture first." His laugh is soft and familiar. Also true. He offers me the card. Vanessa reaches for it at the same time, perhaps to help, perhaps because Daniel told her to keep it visible. Her fingers catch the edge. For one strange second, we are both holding it. "I didn't know," she whispers. The blue crescent near the corner sits between our thumbs. I take the card. "Thank you for reading it," I tell Philip. My voice sounds calm, which feels like something my body has done without consulting me. I wrote every word. Philip glances at Daniel. He is too courteous to make the next part easier. "We've reserved the place beside the west greenhouse plans for Mara," he says. "Nina thought she might prefer it. We're hoping to discuss the restoration schedule." Nina emerges from the edge of the crowd, a radio clipped discreetly beneath her black jacket. She has seen enough to understand too much. "Come with me," she says. Daniel steps around his chair. "I'll go with you." "No," I say. It is only one word. It lands harder than I mean it to. Evelyn touches her napkin to the corner of her mouth. This has gotten awfully theatrical. Nina looks at her. It's a theater-sized room. Vanessa makes a sound that might have been a laugh if she weren't mortified. I follow Nina across the ballroom. The place she finds for me is not at the Conservancy staff table. It's a small round table near a display of West greenhouse drawings, where two preservation architects and a retired structural engineer are finishing their salads. Nina adds a chair herself. "We can move the display," she says. "Don't. June would haunt you." She already haunts the boiler room. The retired engineer stands to help with my chair. He asks about the roof invoice as soon as I sit down, which is the kindest thing anyone has done all evening. Within 5 minutes, we are arguing over whether the south drainage trench can be widened without disturbing the original foundation stones. I should be relieved. I am talking about work I understand with people who don't require me to pretend that humiliation is generosity. But table 6 is reflected in the dark greenhouse windows. Daniel has sat down again. Vanessa is beside him. Evelyn speaks to a developer across the table, one hand resting lightly on her daughter's wrist as she introduces her. Vanessa straightens, puts on her professional smile, and begins explaining something with elegant movements of her fingers. From a distance, they look exactly like the family Evelyn wanted everyone to see. Nina follows my gaze. "Want me to spill soup on someone?" "You don't serve soup at this event." I plan ahead. I smile despite myself. "Was Vanessa supposed to be here?" she asks. "No." "Did Daniel know she was coming?" "I don't know." That answer bothers me more than it should. There had been that quick change in his expression at the entrance. Surprise, maybe, or calculation delayed by an audience. Nina's radio murmurs. She excuses herself to deal with a light near the east stairs. When she leaves, I open my clutch and find Daniel's brass coat token beneath my lipstick. 47. Each bellwether token is stamped with a tiny outline of the conservatory dome. Most are worn smooth, but 47 has a nick across the roofline. June used to say the tokens were the only honest things at Gala season. People handed over what they didn't want to carry and received proof that it could be reclaimed. Across the room, Daniel turns and catches me watching. He mouths, "We'll talk." Then he smiles at the developer beside Vanessa. I close my hand around the token until its edge presses into my palm. After the auction, Daniel finds me beside the orchid house. Night has turned the glass walls into mirrors. Behind my reflection, orchids float in warm artificial light, white and yellow and bruised purple. Daniel appears over my shoulder, fastening his tuxedo jacket. "I've been looking for you." You knew where I was seated. "I was trying not to make this worse in front of everyone. You gave her my donor card. I told her to hold our places until I found another chair." "You sat down." "Because Philip came over before I could fix it. You told Vanessa to keep the card out." "For Philip. I thought he might want to speak to us about the donation." "Us?" Daniel exhales through his nose. "Please don't do that." "Do what?" Repeat one word like it's evidence in a murder trial. A custodian pushes a wheeled bin through the far doors. We step aside, still facing each other. "I showed you what I wrote," I say. "I know." "You knew what that seat meant." "It was a chair, Mara. There it is. Clean, simple, almost reasonable." Behind the glass, condensation gathers along the metal ribs of the greenhouse. Daniel lowers his voice. Vanessa is falling apart. Mom thought tonight could help her meet people. She handled it badly, but once they were here, what did you expect me to do? Tell them there wasn't a seat. She's my sister. I'm your wife. That's exactly why I thought you would understand. I look at him. He seems tired now and offended, as if I have failed a test neither of us knew I was taking. Did you know they were coming? I ask. His eyes shift toward the orchids. It is barely a movement. If I hadn't spent 11 years watching his face across invoices, funerals, holidays, and bad restaurant tables, I might have missed it. Daniel. Mom mentioned Vanessa was having a rough week. That isn't what I asked. She floated the idea. When? This afternoon, before he kissed my shoulder, before he asked me to read June's card aloud. The greenhouse heater clicks on with a low mechanical hum. I open my clutch, take out token 47, and hold it toward him. What's that? Your coat. He doesn't take it immediately. Mara, are you leaving? Yes. We came together. I know. For once, I let the sentence mean exactly what it means. I set the token on the ledge between us and walk toward the foyer before he can hand it back. The driver who picked me up had a vanilla air freshener shaped like a crown and a dashboard full of tiny plastic ducks. One wore sunglasses, another had a construction helmet. You mind if I keep the radio on? He asked, as long as nobody talks about families. He glanced at me in the mirror, then changed the station from a call-in advice show to late-night jazz. At home, I took off my shoes in the kitchen and stood with one hand against the counter until the room stopped feeling tilted. The refrigerator hummed. Daniel's breakfast plate was still in the sink because I had left before loading the dishwasher. His dry cleaning hung from the pantry door where I had put it so he wouldn't forget. I carried the bag upstairs and hung my own dress carefully. Habit was ridiculous that way. Your life could crack open in a ballroom, and you would still worry about creasing silk. Daniel came home just after 1. I heard his key, then the soft thump of his shoes landing wherever he stepped out of them. He found me in bed wearing one of June's old bellwether t-shirts, the green lettering nearly washed away. You left me there. He was holding his overcoat and brass token 47. I left your claim check on a stone ledge. You found it. That's not the point. No, it isn't. He dropped the token on the dresser. It spun bright and quick before falling flat beside my earrings. Daniel loosened his bow tie. Mom went home with Vanessa. I assumed she would. She was upset. Which one? Both of them, actually. He waited for me to apologize. I pulled the blanket higher. Vanessa says she didn't know the card was personal. You handed it to her. I thought the place card and donor card should stay together. You thought wrong. I've said that. He hadn't, but correcting him felt like accepting a job I no longer wanted. He sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress dipped toward him, drawing my body a fraction of an inch closer. I should have told Mom no, he said. I should have found you another chair before I sat down. I was trying to handle too many things at once, and I made a bad call. It was a good apology if you didn't look directly at it. You knew at 3 o'clock, I said. Knew what? That your mother might bring Vanessa. I knew she was considering it. And you didn't tell me. She does this. She floats 6 ideas and follows through on one. So you decided I could absorb whichever one she chose. His mouth tightened. Why are you making it sound calculated? Because you had hours to think about it. I had work. So did I. I was fixing the table list. Mara, come on. Did you tell your mother not to bring her? He rubbed both hands over his face. I told her the event was sold out. That isn't no. She heard it as no. She arrived with Vanessa. Well, apparently she didn't. He looked genuinely exhausted, which was the trouble with Daniel. His feelings were real even when he had built the room they were trapped in. I reached over and turned off the lamp. He remained on the bed for a moment. Then he stood, picked up his pillow, and left for the guest room. The brass token stayed on my dresser. At 6:30, my alarm went off. I silenced it and lay still. Normally, I would have started coffee, reviewed the site schedules, checked the weather for exterior work, and packed the folder Daniel needed for his Friday walkthrough. He had a meeting at the Archer Street property at 9. The cabinet installer had changed the hinge specification, and the revision sat in our home printer tray waiting for my signature. The printer was 20 feet away. I stayed in bed. At 7:10, cabinets banged in the kitchen. The coffee grinder made 3 short, choking sounds. "Mara!" Daniel called from downstairs. I closed my eyes. At 7:20, he appeared in the bedroom doorway wearing dark trousers and an undershirt. "Did you pick up my blue shirts?" "They're on the pantry door." I looked. "No, you looked in the closet." His jaw shifted. He disappeared, then returned wearing the blue shirt. "Where's the Archer revision?" "Printer." "Did you sign it?" "No." "Why not?" "Because I haven't reviewed it." "You reviewed the email." "I read the email. I haven't checked the measurements." He looked at the clock. "Can you do it now?" "I can do it when I start work at 8:30. The meeting is at 9. Then you should leave soon." For a second, I saw him prepare to say something sharper. Instead, he buttoned his cuff and gave me the careful, tolerant look he used with clients who demanded impossible deadlines. "We're both tired," he said. "Let's not punish the company because we had a bad night." I sat up. "The company isn't being punished. It's being asked to wait until I'm working." "You're always working." "I know." He left without the revision. At 8:25, I went downstairs. Daniel had spilled coffee grounds across the counter and wiped up the center, leaving a dark crescent near the toaster. There was no coffee in the pot. He had forgotten to put in the filter. I made 1 cup. Voss Vale occupied a converted plumbing supply warehouse 12 minutes from our house. The front half was a showroom Daniel had designed to feel like someone's expensive kitchen after they had cleaned it for company. The back half was honest. Desks, sample shelves, blueprints, chargers, work boots, and a temperamental copier labeled Beatrice. I parked beside our site supervisor, Marco Ruiz. He was unloading tile samples from his truck. "You survived the fancy party?" he asked. "Define survive." "Still got all your teeth?" "So far." Then it beat the Mason Street demolition. Inside, Leah Patel was on the phone with a plumber and pointing angrily at Beatrice. She covered the receiver. "Daniel needs the Archer revision." "I know." He said it was approved. "It isn't." She uncovered the receiver and told the plumber, "No, Pete, I'm agreeing with you. Enjoy this historic moment." My office door was open. I always closed it at night. A pink bakery box sat on my desk with a note in Evelyn's handwriting. "Peace offering, almond croissants. Life is too short for grudges." 1 croissant was missing. I stared at the box. "Was Evelyn here?" I asked Leah. "She dropped those off around 8. "How did she get in?" Leah pointed toward my office. "She had a key." Evelyn had possessed a key to our house for years. I had given it to her after Daniel threw out his back and she volunteered to let in the heating technician. It had never occurred to me that she also had one to the warehouse. Did Daniel give it to her? No idea. I was in the restroom. When I came out, she was looking for the large fabric books. Which fabric books? The hotel-grade ones. Vanessa's preferred playground. I opened the sample cabinet. 2 binders were missing. So was the small ring of sample room keys that usually hung from a hook inside my office. Leah, did she say where she was going? No. Should she not have taken those? No. Leah put the plumber on hold. Want me to call Daniel? I'll call him. Daniel answered on the 4th ring over the sound of power tools. If this is about the revision, the installer had a copy, he said. It's about your mother. A pause. What now? She let herself into the warehouse and took sample binders. I told her Vanessa could look at them. You told her she could enter my office and take company property. They're fabric books, Mara. Why does she have a key? I gave Mom an extra when we opened the showroom. We opened it 7 years ago, for emergencies. This wasn't an emergency. I'm standing in a kitchen with no cabinet doors. Can this wait? I looked at the almond croissants. Butter had soaked through the bottom of the box, leaving dark circles on the papers beneath it. No, I said. He went quiet. I almost smiled. Not because anything was funny, but because Daniel was unaccustomed to hearing the word in my voice. "Call her," I said. "Tell her to return the binders and the key by noon. You call her. She brought the pastries for you. I didn't lend her the key. She's trying to make peace. She took a croissant." "What?" "Never mind. Mara, if this is all fallout from last night, it's fallout from her entering my office. Our office. My office inside our company. Do you know where the vendor tax forms are?" "Of course. Where?" He didn't answer. "Get the key back," I said, and ended the call. At 9:15, I reviewed the cabinet revision. The new hinges required a deeper recess than the approved door profile could tolerate. If Daniel had signed it at home, every upper door on Archer Street would have needed to be remade. I marked the conflict, sent the corrected dimensions to the installer, and copied Daniel without comment. At 9:32, he replied, "Good catch." Those 2 words annoyed me more than they should have. They made the correction sound like a ball I had snagged from the air for his convenience, instead of a mistake I had prevented because he had been willing to sign something he hadn't checked. Evelyn arrived at 11:40 carrying the fabric books and wearing cream trousers no sensible person would wear near a warehouse. "I've returned the crown jewels," she announced. Leah became deeply interested in the copier. Evelyn put the books on my desk. Vanessa only needed them for an hour. She needed to ask. I did ask Daniel. "I manage sample inventory." "Well, that seems like an odd use of your time." "It's part of my job." "You do have people." "So does the governor. He still has a job." She smiled. "There's the Mara wit." I wondered where it had gone last night. "The key." Evelyn took her sunglasses off. "Daniel gave me that key." "I know. It's for emergencies. This wasn't one." "Vanessa has a chance to pitch a restaurant project. Her own materials are in storage, and you know what a mess that unit is." I did know. I had arranged it, paid the deposit through the company, and spent a Saturday labeling the aisles while Vanessa argued with the mover. "The storage unit is climate controlled," I said. "Her materials are available. She needed something current. Then she can open trade accounts." Evelyn leaned both hands on my desk. Her perfume settled into the room, rose and pepper. "You are angry with Daniel," she said. "I understand that, but punishing Vanessa's career is beneath you." "Getting my key back isn't punishment." "Your key?" "The company's key. There it is." Her voice softened, which was always when she became most dangerous. "You attach ownership to every favor, every dinner, every introduction, every little task. Then you act wounded when the rest of us don't keep score." I opened my top drawer and took out an empty key tag. "You're right," I said. She blinked. "I've done too much keeping track for everyone. I'm going to stop." "That isn't what I meant." "I know. The key, please." She studied me for a long moment, then opened her handbag. The ring she removed held at least 8 keys, each fitted with a neat plastic label. Gate. Side storage. Mara/Daniel. She detached the warehouse key and placed it in my palm. The storage key remained on her ring. "Is Voss Vale still paying for Vanessa's unit?" I asked. Evelyn's expression changed by half a degree. "It's temporary. It had been temporary for 4 months. Not after the current billing cycle. That arrangement is between Daniel and his sister. The charge is on a company card I reconcile. Daniel owns half the company. He can pay half the bill from his personal account." She slid her sunglasses back on. "You're making a list, aren't you?" "No." That was the truth. The list already existed. It was simply disguised as my life. After she left, I called the storage facility and removed automatic renewal from the company card. The manager told me the unit would remain paid through the end of the month. I emailed the date to Daniel and Vanessa. Then I opened our banking dashboard. For 3 years, I had kept a transfer authorization between my personal savings and the Voss Vale operating account. We had used it twice, once when a client's insurance payment was late, and again when Daniel ordered a full shipment of imported flooring before collecting the deposit. The money had come from what June left me. Both times, the company paid it back, but the authorization remained as a silent safety net. I removed it. The bank sent a confirmation code to my phone. I entered it before I could talk myself into waiting for a calmer day. At 2, Vanessa replied to my storage email. Wow, nothing else. At 2:10, Daniel called. You canceled her unit? I removed the company card. It's paid until the 31st. She has nowhere to put that inventory. She already has somewhere. She needs to pay for it. You could have discussed this with me. You didn't discuss it with me when you offered. I did discuss it in February. You said she needed 2 weeks while she found an apartment. So this is revenge. I looked through the glass wall of my office. Marco was showing Leah a cracked tile. They had no idea our marriage was taking place behind 6 inches of frosted stripes. No, I said. Revenge would be throwing her things into the parking lot. This is notice. Very clever. It wasn't a joke. I'm trying to get Archer Street back on schedule. I'm trying to keep Mom from calling me every 20 minutes. Now Vanessa says you're sabotaging her pitch. She took samples without permission. She returned them. Because I noticed. Daniel lowered his voice. You are turning everything into a loyalty test. No, I'm done taking one. He ended the call. For the rest of the afternoon, work felt almost normal. I approved a stone invoice, found a permit number Marco needed, and convinced a lighting supplier not to split a shipment. At 5:30, Leah left for a concert. Marco locked the loading door behind him. I was shutting down my computer when an email arrived from Daniel. The subject line read, Ashford Presentation, Updated Team. The Ashford project was our largest pending contract, a restoration of a 1920s apartment building into 12 high-end residences. I had spent 6 months assembling the preservation schedule and negotiating preliminary terms with the specialty trades. The client presentation was Monday. Daniel's email was addressed to the Ashford partners, 2 consultants, Vanessa and me. To keep Monday's presentation streamlined, Daniel had written, Mara will take a step back from the client-facing portion while she focuses on internal operations. Vanessa Voss will join us to strengthen the design discussion. A second paragraph thanked everyone for their flexibility while Mara recovered from an overwhelming evening at Bellwether. I read it twice, then a third time because humiliation has a strange way of making simple sentences difficult. My phone lit up with a message from Nina. Hope you got home okay. Philip wants to know if you'll meet about the West Greenhouse next week. Before I could answer, Daniel appeared on the other side of my office glass. He didn't knock. You forced my hand, he said. I turned my monitor toward him. No, I said, you typed it. Daniel closed the office door behind him. I had Ashford's managing partner call me this afternoon, he said. He heard there was some kind of incident at Bellwether. From whom? Does it matter? Yes. He looked away, which answered me. Your mother. She had lunch with his wife. Of course she did. She was trying to get ahead of it. By telling a potential client I was unstable? She said you were upset. You were upset. I was standing in a foyer while my husband gave my seat and my name to someone else. And then you left me at the gala, pulled company support from Vanessa, and demanded Mom's key like she'd broken into Fort Knox. He planted both hands on the chair across from my desk. Daniel was still wearing his sight clothes, dark jeans, and a white Oxford with gray dust along one sleeve. He looked more familiar like that than he had in his tuxedo. Did you tell Ashford I approved this change? I asked. I told them we adjusted the team. You told them I'm overwhelmed. They needed a reason. You needed a story. I needed the client not to think the 2 owners of Voss Vale are at war. So you removed one of them from the room for one meeting and put Vanessa in my place. His face tightened. He heard it too late. That's not the same thing. It's exactly the same thing with a projector. He shoved the chair back. Its legs scraped hard against the concrete floor. Vanessa is a qualified designer. Then she can present a project she designed. She's helping with finishes. Since when? Since today. I clicked into the Ashford folder and opened the finish schedule. My initials appeared beside every room type. Which part did she help with? I'm not doing this. You're the one who came in. because I hoped we could act like partners. I laughed once. It sounded ugly in the empty warehouse. Partners don't diagnose each other in client emails. Daniel's phone buzzed. He checked it. "Mom?" I asked. "Ashford. Go ahead. Tell them I've become overwhelmed by my office." He put the phone face down. "Mara, if you walk into that presentation angry, you could cost us the contract. And if Vanessa walks in unprepared, I'll prepare her. With my work. Our work." He said it gently, as though gentleness changed ownership. I shut down my computer and picked up my bag. "Send me the files you plan to use." "Why?" "Because my name is on the proposal and I'm responsible for the numbers." "You're not presenting." "I heard you the first 3 times." He moved aside, but only barely. I had to turn my shoulder to pass him. At home, the brass token was gone from the dresser. I found it downstairs beside Daniel's wallet, along with the warehouse key Evelyn had returned. He had put both objects in the small ceramic bowl where we kept loose change, as if they were minor things emptied from a pocket. I took the warehouse key to my office and locked it in the document cabinet. The token I left where it was. Daniel came home after 10. He slept in the guest room again. Through the wall, I heard the low murmur of his voice for nearly an hour. On Saturday morning, Vanessa arrived in the company showroom carrying 2 coffees and wearing the expression of someone reporting for a punishment she planned to survive beautifully. I was at my desk reviewing the Ashford cost schedule. She stopped in my doorway. "I brought you an oat milk latte." "I don't drink oat milk." "Daniel said you did." "Daniel drinks oat milk." She looked at the cups. That explains why he was so confident. I waited. She set one on my desk anyway. "I'm supposed to pull finishes for Monday." "The samples are in the showroom." "I know." "Then why are you in here?" "I wanted to tell you I didn't ask him to remove you, but you agreed to replace me." Her mouth pressed flat. Vanessa had Evelyn's cheekbones and Daniel's habit of looking wounded by accurate nouns. "I need work, Mara." "So find work." "I am trying. With my client. With a company that has my last name on the wall." I leaned back. "Vale is my last name, too." "Was." The word landed cleanly. Vanessa heard it and looked down. "That came out wrong." "No, it came out the way your family thinks." She dragged the guest chair forward and sat. "My family is currently paying your mortgage, too." "Our company pays Daniel and me. We pay the mortgage." "You know what I mean." "I do. That's the problem." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Somewhere in the showroom, the automatic faucet in the display kitchen clicked on by itself. It had been doing that for months. Daniel called it atmospheric. I called it a warranty claim. Vanessa wrapped both hands around her coffee. "My old partner froze me out of client meetings," she said. "He started saying I was better with visual details than contracts. Then he took my name off a proposal I wrote." I stared at her. She gave a bitter little smile. "Yes, I hear it. And you're still going Monday." "I have rent?" "So do I." She stood. "At least you still have a company." After she left my office, I heard her moving through the sample racks. She had good instincts. I could tell from the rhythm of what she pulled and replaced. Vanessa wasn't talentless. She was simply accustomed to treating other people's structure as the boring part that appeared beneath her ideas. At noon, Marco came in for a laser level he had forgotten. "Why is Vanessa building a board for Ashford?" he asked. Daniel invited her. He watched me for a second. "You okay with that?" "No." "All right." He didn't ask for the cleaner version. Monday morning, I wore a navy suit and went to the warehouse at 8. Daniel arrived at 8:15, stopped when he saw me, then placed his laptop bag on the conference table. "I thought we were clear." "I'm not attending the presentation." "Then why are you dressed like that?" "I have a meeting at Bellwether." That unsettled him more than my presence would have. "What meeting?" "The West Greenhouse restoration." "On a Monday?" "Buildings don't observe weekends." Vanessa entered carrying 2 presentation boards and a tube of drawings. She glanced between us. Daniel opened his laptop. Did you update the reflected ceiling plan? You told me Mara had it, she said. I told you it was in the shared folder. There are 6 versions. The approved one ends in F. 2 of them end in F. He looked toward me. I picked up my bag. Mara, he said, which file is current? The revision log is on the first page of the project index. I'm asking you, and I'm answering. Vanessa turned her laptop around. This index? Yes. She scanned it, clicked once, and found the plan. Daniel exhaled. Thank you. I left before gratitude became another assignment. At Bellwether, Nina met me beneath the conservatory dome with 2 coffees, both black. I asked Tessa, she said. Tessa is a professional. Philip joined us in the West Greenhouse. The room had been closed for 9 months because of corrosion in the lower window frames. Dust filmed the empty planting beds, and strips of yellow caution tape fluttered whenever the ventilation system came on. We spent 2 hours walking the perimeter. Nina knew where every leak appeared. Philip knew the history of every repair. I knew which trades could work around historic glass without turning the estimate into fantasy. By the end, they asked me to prepare a paid consulting proposal. It was modest work compared with Ashford, but it was mine before Daniel had a chance to call it ours. When I returned to the warehouse, the presentation boards were propped against the showroom island. Daniel stood at the sink drinking directly from a bottle of mineral water. How did it go? I asked. Fine. That well? Ashford wants revised numbers. They always wanted revised numbers. They didn't like the schedule. The schedule is tied to the window fabricator. I know that. Did you tell them? I handled it. Vanessa came out of the restroom. Her makeup had been repaired around the eyes. She picked up her coat without looking at either of us. Call me later, Daniel told her. Why? So you can explain how Mara's numbers made you look bad? The numbers weren't the issue. You blamed every answer you didn't know on internal operations. I said Mara manages that side. You said she was taking time away to get herself together. Daniel glanced at me. Vanessa laughed, but there was no humor in it. You didn't tell me you were going to say that in the room. You knew about the email. The email said one overwhelming evening. You made her sound like she was having a breakdown. I was protecting the company. Right, Vanessa said. That's what Owen used to call it. She walked out. Daniel gripped the mineral water bottle until the plastic crackled. I assume you enjoyed that. No, I meant it. There was nothing enjoyable about watching recognition hurt someone, even Vanessa. Ashford called the next afternoon and postponed its decision. Daniel became relentlessly cheerful. He sent upbeat messages to the staff, brought in sandwiches, and scheduled a showroom open house for prospective clients. Evelyn arrived with flowers and acted as if she had never owned a key. She positioned Vanessa near the sample wall and introduced her to every architect who came through. I stayed in my office and began documenting, not Daniel's sins, the company's machinery, vendor terms, permit contacts, insurance deadlines, warranty obligations, the door supplier who required deposits by wire, and the plaster specialist who refused jobs scheduled after Thanksgiving. I built a calendar of every promise Daniel had made during the last 6 weeks and matched each one to the labor, money, or relationship required to keep it. The pattern appeared before I finished the second page. Daniel sold certainty. I supplied the conditions that made certainty possible. On Thursday, Leah forwarded me a signed letter of intent for the Calder Building, a 4-story limestone property downtown. Congratulations, she wrote. Daniel says this one's moving fast. I opened the attachment. The preliminary deposit was due in 10 business days. The project schedule assumed an October start. The scope included restoration windows from Hollis Architectural, a shop that had already told me it was booked through January. I walked into Daniel's office. He was on speakerphone with Evelyn, discussing catering for the open house. I placed the Calder letter on his desk. I'll call you back, he said, and disconnected. You signed this? It's a letter of intent, with a deposit deadline and a performance schedule. We need momentum after Ashford. Hollis can't make the windows. They'll find room. They told me no. You have a relationship with them. Yes. Then use it. I looked at him across the desk. He smiled, tired and coaxing, the smile that had carried us through 11 years. We're good at impossible, he said. For the first time, I heard what he meant. I was good at impossible. He was good at promising me. No, I said. His smile faded. No what? No, I won't call Hollis and ask them to rearrange 4 months of work because you signed a schedule without checking. You've asked them for favors before, for emergencies. This is an emergency. It's Thursday. You signed on Tuesday. I had to move quickly. That's urgency. An emergency is something you couldn't prevent. He leaned back in his chair. You really have a definition ready for everything now. I've always had definitions. You just liked them better when they protected you. He picked up the Calder letter and tapped it against his desk. What do you want, Mara? It was the first useful question he had asked me. I want you to call Calder and correct the schedule before they transfer the deposit. We'll lose the project. Maybe. And then what? We sit around waiting for Bellwether to pay us to polish windows? They asked me for a consulting proposal. His eyes narrowed. You took company business without discussing it. They approached me personally. At a gala Voss Vale paid for. My inheritance paid for that donation. We donated as a couple. My name was on the card. There it is again. What? Mine, yours, Mom's, Vanessa's. You've divided the entire world into labeled drawers. You gave my labeled chair away. He stood so quickly that his desk chair struck the wall. It always comes back to the chair. No, it comes back to how easy it was for you. We faced each other across the signed letter. The old warehouse pipes clicked overhead as the heat came on. Daniel's voice dropped. If you refuse to help with Calder and we lose it, that affects everyone who works here. There was his strongest weapon, not anger, responsibility. I'm not refusing to help, I'm telling you the honest schedule. Hollis will listen to you. They already did. They said January. Then find someone else. You promised historic profile windows from Hollis in October. He looked down at the letter as if the words had appeared after he signed. I'll handle it, he said. I nodded. Okay. That frightened him. I went back to my office and emailed him the notes from my call with Hollis, the name of an alternate supplier, and the cost difference. I copied Leah so the information could not disappear into one of our private arguments. The alternate was 27% more expensive. Daniel sent Calder the original deposit invoice anyway. The next morning, Vanessa came in through the loading entrance. She was carrying the sample room keys. I found these in Mom's bag, she said. She set them on my desk, then remained standing. Thank you. She forgot she had them. Your mother labels her keys. Fine. She didn't forget. Vanessa sat without being invited. The Polish on one thumbnail was chipped down to the nail. Daniel told me Ashford hasn't paid my consulting fee because you put a hold on non-essential checks. I didn't know you had a consulting fee. He said the paperwork was being processed. How much? She told me. It was not a fortune, but it was enough to matter if you were paying downtown rent and a storage bill. I opened our pending payments. Her name wasn't there. There's no invoice, I said. I gave one to Daniel. Did he approve it? He said he would. I searched the account's payable email. Nothing. Vanessa stared past me at the sample cabinet. At the presentation, he used 3 of my boards. He introduced me as part of the Voss Vale design team. Then when Ashford asked who had developed the finish schedule, he said you had, before your recent difficulties. I'm sorry. I don't need you to be gracious. I wasn't being gracious. That made her look at me. I know what it's like to do work and watch Daniel turn it into atmosphere, I said. She picked at her thumbnail. He said you would fix Calder. I'm not going to. He seems very sure. He usually is. Vanessa took out her phone and forwarded her invoice to me. I logged it, marked it for review between both owners, and copied Daniel. Does that mean I'll get paid? It means there's a record. She nodded as though the distinction had recently become meaningful. At noon, Eric Mays from our stone supplier called about an order Vanessa had tried to place for the showroom open house. She'd used my name because Daniel told her all design materials went through my account. Is this approved? Eric asked. No. I thought it looked strange. She wanted rush delivery with no project code. Don't fill it. All right. Vanessa was standing beside Daniel's desk when I went in. Her cheeks were bright. You told her to use my authorization, I said. Daniel didn't bother denying it. It was display material. Then authorize it yourself. Eric's account is under operations. It's under my name because I guarantee the orders are documented. It's a company account. Then call him. He did. He put Eric on speakerphone, perhaps because he expected the performance to help. Eric listened to Daniel explain the open house and then said, I can set up a separate authorization for you. I'll need a credit form and payment before delivery until we establish terms. We've bought from you for 8 years, Daniel said. Mara has. Daniel's face became very still. I'll send the form, Eric added. After the call ended, Vanessa gathered her purse. Where are you going? Daniel asked. Home. We have an open house tomorrow. You still haven't approved my invoice. I told you I would. You tell everyone you will. She looked at me only once before she left. It wasn't friendship, it was recognition, which was smaller and more useful. Calder transferred the deposit on Monday. By Wednesday, Daniel had not corrected the schedule. He had, however, told Leah to announce the project on social media. I prepared a transition file. It contained every obligation tied to Calder, every date Daniel had promised, the alternate supplier quote, the Hollis refusal, and a cash flow projection showing what happened if we absorbed the higher window cost. I also prepared 2 versions of the company's next 6 months. One if we unwound Calder honestly and reduced new work while Daniel and I negotiated how to operate, and one if Daniel kept selling at the same pace without my personal credit line, unpaid overtime, and vendor accommodations. The second version ran out of cash in 11 weeks. I did not leave it anonymously on his chair. I scheduled a meeting. He came home early that night carrying takeout from the Thai restaurant where we had celebrated our first profitable quarter. He set the cartons on the kitchen table. I thought we could reset, he said. The phrase was so Daniel that I almost loved him for it. He had brought my usual order. He had also brought sparkling water, which I disliked, and no rice. Sit down, I said. He saw the folders. What is this? A choice. I slid the 2 projections toward him, followed by the Calder file. You can call Calder tomorrow, return the deposit if they won't accept the correct schedule, and we can bring in a mediator to restructure the company. Clear roles, 2 signatures on family expenses. No promises made in my name. Or, you keep Voss Vale. He stared at me. You keep the showroom, the active contracts, the company name, and the image you're trying to protect. We get valuations and negotiate a fair buyout of my share. Until then, I document a proper handoff and perform only the work attached to my role. No personal funds, no favors represented as company resources, no emergency rescues. You'd walk away from what we built? I'm walking away from being what holds it up. His eyes moved over the papers but didn't settle on the numbers. You want me to beg? No. You want me to admit I can't do this without you. I want you to decide what you're willing to do with me. He pushed the cash flow sheet aside. And Bellwether? Mine. You already planned this. I started planning after you removed me from Ashford. 2 weeks ago. Yes. He laughed in disbelief. You're blowing up 11 years over 2 weeks. No, I noticed 11 years during 2 weeks. The front door opened. Evelyn walked into the kitchen using her key. She carried a garment bag and Vanessa's mood boards. I knocked, she said. Daniel, the caterer needs... She saw the folders. This isn't a good time, Daniel said. Evelyn looked at me. What have you done? I stood and held out my hand. The house key. She clutched her key ring. Daniel invited me. Tonight? He said he was going to smooth things over and someone has to prepare for tomorrow. Daniel rubbed his forehead. Mom, just give it to her. Her face changed. Not much, but enough. She had expected him to argue on her behalf forever. This is my son's house, too. Yes, I said. He can let you in. Evelyn removed the key marked Mara/Daniel and put it on the table. You think withdrawing from everyone makes you strong, she said. No, I think it makes your choices visible. She turned to Daniel. Say something. He looked at the key, the folders, the takeout cooling between us. Then he looked at the Voss veil projections. I'm keeping the company, he said. Evelyn exhaled, triumphant too soon. I placed her house key beside brass token 47, which had been sitting in the ceramic bowl near Daniel's wallet. The token's nicked dome caught the kitchen light. Then keep it honestly, I said. The open house went ahead. Vanessa did not attend. Neither did I. Daniel called Calder the following week, after the alternate supplier required full payment, and Hollis declined his second request. Calder accepted a January window schedule, but reduced the first phase and withheld part of the deposit. Daniel blamed the market in the staff meeting. Marco walked into my office afterward and asked whether he should start looking for work. Yes, I said, quietly. Leah already had. The separation took months. There was no clean cut through a company made from shared signatures and old favors. Daniel fought hardest for the name and the showroom. I fought for release from the lease guarantees, my share of the equipment and receivables, and written notice to every vendor that he could no longer authorize orders through me. We sold the house. Evelyn called that vindictive until Daniel told her he could not buy out my equity and refinance a loan. Vanessa paid for her own storage unit and began taking small restaurant design jobs. She and I never became close. Once she emailed to ask which plaster specialist I trusted. I sent the contact and told her to mention my name only if she paid on time. She replied, fair. My bellwether proposal became a contract. Then another preservation group asked me to review a roof schedule. I rented a narrow office above a locksmith where the radiator banged and every client had to climb 2 flights of stairs. On the frosted glass door, I put Vail Consulting in dark green letters. The West Greenhouse reopened on a cold, bright evening 11 months after the gala. Nina had filled the restored beds with winter orchids. Philip stood beneath the repaired frames and spoke about the craftspeople who had removed, labeled, cleaned, and reset each pane. Their names were printed in the program. At coat check, Tessa took my wool coat and handed me a brass token. 47. You're kidding, I said. I saved the good ones. I turned it over. The little dome still had the nick across its roofline. After the reception, I collected my coat and started to drop the token into the bowl. Then I stopped. Tessa smiled and slid the bowl away. That one's retired. Outside, the greenhouse shone through the bare trees, every pane holding light because someone had done the work correctly. I opened my purse, took out my office keys, and worked the brass token onto the ring. It clicked into place beside the key with my name on it.